Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's December 24th, 2024. It's Christmas Eve. My lovely wife reminded me that it's Christmas Eve this morning. Turning on the PTO. Okay. So it's Christmas Eve. Either this will get posted later this afternoon or tomorrow morning, probably tomorrow morning, Christmas Day. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays, Happy Hanukkah. I really don't know all the holiday dates and all. I'm kind of an oddball when it comes to holidays and all. And it's cold out today. It's actually much warmer today. It's up to 31 degrees right now. And 31 degrees Fahrenheit, of course. So I'm in Optimus Maximus here, the Kubota Grand L6060. Gonna do a little more snow blowing and chat with you. As I'm doing this. This snowblower really is, it's beautiful. With this nice cab and all. Now right now it's cold in here. I started it up probably 10 minutes ago, but it's still pretty cold in here. It takes a while to heat up. The fastest vehicle that we have to warm up is the Cybertruck and the Model Y. Those vehicles warm up so quick. Of course, the electric motors just generate that heat right off the bat, and you don't have to have a engine block to heat up the coolant enough to circulate it through a piece of equipment like this or a traditional car or truck. So we got a few inches over the last 24 hours. I'm hoping my batteries work this time. Last time I had some challenges with the batteries dying on me. This is pretty dense, heavy snow. It's just a few inches, probably 4 inches. It looks like, but it's stuff that's so dense it doesn't compress down. I'm gonna focus on where I'm backing up to here. And yeah, so when you're walking on it, you're basically walking on top of the snow. It's so dense. It's like small, more condensed crystals. I got the fan on full blast in here. Again, I'm in the medium range speed, and get close to the buildings here, try not to do any damage. Medium range speed in the turtle mode, so the lower part of the medium range. So there's low, medium, and high, and then there's turtle and rabbit mode of the two, so there's really like 6 speeds. And I think that's about all the speeds you need with the Case 995 that I had. I don't know, there were probably over a dozen, maybe 16 different speeds you could have it in. And I kept it in 2 or 3 speeds all the time. Really dense, heavy snow. Not wet, but it will get wet later on today. It's supposed to get up above freezing, up to, they say, 36 degrees. I don't think it will, but that's what the forecast is for. Just gonna widen this out right here since I'm sliding some on top of the ice. My neck is very sore today. Last few days, my neck has been sore. And so that's life. It's not throwing it quite as far today. Boy, I'm having a hard time keeping the tractor tracking right where I want it to go. It wants to go down the slope on me here to my right. But we'll get the job done. It's challenging me as someone who makes these YouTube videos from our homestead and the things that we do, trying to figure out what people actually like the most out of the videos. Now it's going straight. A couple of people have commented, I mean, they watched the last video on Optimus Maximus here, my Kubota Grand L6060, and they always say, yeah, I've got a dream machine. It is. It really is. My brother has a Grand L 4060, and he loves that. He's got the backhoe on the back of his. Well, I'm sure it comes in very handy for all the projects he has. He builds a lot like I do. He's built his own home and is always making improvements. A handyman as well. And he's the engineer who designed the energy efficiency of our home long before I knew about any of that stuff. Okay, it's warming up some now. When I reach up, either I'm hitting the windshield wipers or I'm adjusting the temperature. The good thing is, underneath the snow now, in the places that I've been blowing the snow, it's pretty solid. Of course, it's going to get up to, they say, 36 today. So that'll warm things up. That's why I wanted to get this snow moved before it gets warm. it'll get slushy on the bottom and the base of it below the snow level. And you know, another person commented on, you know, the having the snowblower on the front of the tractor. Yes, especially as you're getting older, and having a cab. And of course, you've got to be real choosy when you're not financially set to be able to make a big investment like this. But always keeping your eyes open for, you know, there's, you know, when places go out of business and they sell their equipment like this, these Kubotas have a reputation for lasting for many years, running very, very well. I'll slow down some since I missed some of this spot here before. I had a lot of downward pressure there trying to scoop this down, trying to make it so when Thea's walking around out here, she wears ice cleats all the time. Their osteoporosis, you don't want to break any more bones. All it takes is one slip. Yeah, the ground is frozen right here. I'm having a hard time maneuvering the tractor here so that I can keep the same, run the same line here. A little tough. You can't see the front wheels on this. They're pointing to the left right now, me trying to get it to go, but we will manage it. So I've got all these slopes on the property around here, and I've got one of those heated seat pads that you buy for your car, little 12 volt in here. It does not work very well. So I might as well unplug it now because it's had plenty of time to warm up. So there's big changes in the ground level right here as I'm going through. This part of the snow blowing the other day you weren't able to see is one of the batteries went dead and I didn't even know it. Could happen right now too. Some people may be wondering, since we're usually pretty darn active all season long, what are we doing during the winter months? Well, during the winter months, the bookstore, so we have an online, I'm going to have to peel this jacket off in a minute here. First focus on where I'm driving here. These mirrors, these side mirrors are absolutely fantastic. Where I can see, I can get like within 2 inches of the concrete here. Then I got to twist so I avoid the overhang here of the house. But we have an online used books service that we provide. We started this. Actually, I'm going to unplug the heated seat, take off my gloves, turn the throttle down here for a second. All right, I got to step out. I'll be right back. Well, I forgot. I took my butt off the seat, and that is going to kill the tractor. But it gets too hot in there. Yeah, this is thick, heavy, dense snow. Okay. Turn the PTO off. And this seat here, well, the seat is good, but the heated seat that goes on top of the seat. All right, let me do this. Okay. Okay, back to work here. Turn the wipers on. So again, I forgot what I was saying just before I got overheated here and had to take my jacket off. So a big thing that we have all year round is we sell used books. And it's predominantly, I'm just selling on eBay now. We have our own bookstore called Mindful Living Sanctuary. And same as our website, mindfullivingsanctuary.com. And that's where we sell our books. And so there was a period of time I was working so much with the rest of the things that I was behind listing books, in other words, making new books available. And I have CDs and DVDs that I've got to list to, so there's some other media that we list. And just about every day we sell a couple of books. And the reason that we started doing this, because, me being dyslexic, I've never been a fan of books. Books have been a necessary resource. Man, it is still so hot here. Have been an absolutely necessary resource for me, for my education. But, man, it is not easy reading for me. And I don't enjoy reading. And in some ways I envy people who actually enjoy reading, because it'd be so nice to gather information that way and actually enjoy it, where it's work for me. Now nowadays I have Audible, which is a service that Amazon bought out, and it's audiobooks, audio versions, authors or their other readers are reading the books, and I can listen to them, and that makes it not only enjoyable to extract that information, but it's also it makes it convenient as well. So I could be right out here listening to an audiobook right now, which I've done many times when I've been working. So that's a resource that's absolutely been amazing. But back in the 80s when I learned to read, so I was 28 when I became capable of reading, somewhat literate, functionally literate. But it took me a couple of years, and there's chapters in my book about this, a couple of years to get to the point where I could actually, figure out the written word. Because back then, this is before, before personal computers, before the internet, before smartphones. So it was challenging, to say the least. But I did learn to read eventually, using a 3x5 card, a paper punch to punch holes out in the 3x5 card, so that I could. I have a couple of. So if you learn about dyslexia, there's different manifestations, the way that people experience the challenges of reading. And one of my most challenging parts, which really gets exacerbated when I'm stressed. And when I was in school, I was very stressed, but the letters don't stay still. They'll rearrange themselves so they aren't in the order of a word, the way that you would spell a word. And a B could be a D, an S could be a 2, everything in spaces. Spaces weren't where they were supposed to be. So by using a 3x5 card, and then I went to like I think they're 5x8, 5x6 card, or 4x6 card, something like that. So I went to larger, like index cards, and I punched holes in them, and I could get 1 or 2 words at a time. 2 words at a time, and then up to 3 words, and it started making sense. But boy, those were some tough times trying to learn how to read, and I still suck at reading. I do. I can read. The thing that saved me was my comprehension. Once I got the vocabulary down and I understood the context of what I was reading, then it was easier for me to figure out what the words actually were in the sentence and what the paragraph was telling me. And then I came up with a color coding system using highlighters and colored pencils to say, well, what the main subject was, what supporting evidence there was, supporting information to support the main theme of the paragraph that I was reading. And of course, I've always been into science, and one of the things is I had to learn to associate the written word, not being able to sound it out correctly, where I already had some of the vocabulary that I understood. I knew the appropriate pronunciation of words, but I didn't associate that appropriate pronunciation with the actual written word, if that makes sense. I'm not great at describing these things. So, it's so hot in here. I ultimately got to the point where I could read, and it wasn't very good by the time I was 28. So that was when I thought, okay, I can read. And I kept this all hidden, and this is all in the book, and the book isn't published yet. I just finished my first draft of the book, which has taken me a few years to do. But I guess, the idea of of a dyslexic who had no idea of being able to read. I just thought, as a kid, I never thought I'd ever be able to read. I thought it was impossible, I guess is the word to use, where I'm not someone that uses that expression, impossible, very much in my life, because I believe in taking big challenges, taking on big risks. And when I fail, I fail. I do some more research, I learn some more, and then I go for it again. But when I was young, it was ingrained in my mind that I was stupid with respect to being able to understand the written word. And yeah, so man, so eventually, once I did that, and we've been working with horses for years, always had pets. Thea was a veterinary technician. Even though she was working in a factory, she had already gotten her associate's degree, or no, her bachelor's degree, and she was a licensed veterinary technician. And so I learned so much from Thea and the veterinarians that we were around all the time, and then working with the horses, and then ultimately having the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center while we were caring for not just orphan and mildly injured animals. We were dealing with animals that had pretty significant injuries that required going to the vets, wound repairs, all sorts of things. And we've been going to different conferences for wildlife rehabilitators for years. And running the Wildlife Center, well, that got to be an all-consuming thing, because we incorporated, it started off with just Thea and I and the kids taking care of orphaned and injured animals after we got licensed as, in our state, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, gotten licensed for wildlife rehabilitation. I also ended up taking a trapper's course, not because I do trapping, but so that I could legally go out and gather injured animals from factories, from all different places, or animals that were considered nuisances that just needed to be relocated. So that was another part of one of the things we did. And as we grew, the home that we lived in, a single wide mobile home that we lived in before we moved into our house, because we had to build our house. Well, when we moved into the house, that mobile home became the Wildlife Center. Then we got another mobile home to hook onto it, and then we remodeled the barns for, instead of them being just horse barns, we made it so there were habitats for owls and hawks, and we had caging set up in places for all the small mammals, and the smaller songbirds, and all those had habitats in one of the mobile homes. We had incubators in there to care for the neonates. So it was a pretty big project that we had going on there, and so we had a volunteer corps. I'm sure you're fascinated by all this, but I might as well talk while I'm snowblowing. And the volunteers were a great asset. But taking care of orphaned and injured wildlife, especially when they do the news broadcasts on us, releasing an owl or releasing a hawk, or working with the deer in the deer compound, it really looks glorious and like something that many, many people would like to do, but there's a lot of dirty, hard work cleaning cages, much tougher than raising horses, mucking stalls, and dealing with, you're dealing with wildlife, and there's dangers associated with that. So our volunteers, you know, it's like some birds need to be fed every 15 minutes. They're high metabolic rate. Many birds don't. But like if you've got a gull or whatever, well, they don't require the intensive feeding that that many, you know, like a hummingbird requires continuous. But many small birds really need a lot. And many people don't realize that many mammals, let's say raccoons, and there were always raccoons coming in. This is all before rabies became endemic to New York State. But all those orphaned baby raccoons, when they're or opossums, all of them, they don't realize that mom, after she's nursing them, well, she licks their little fannies and stimulates them to urinate and defecate. And so there's I guess what I'm trying to say is, most people that want to volunteer in a organization like a wildlife rehabilitation center don't appreciate the dirty jobs. They see the releasing of the bird of prey or the owl, or working with the fawns. They see lots of cool things, but they don't really have an appreciation for the dirty, relentless, never-ending feeding structures that go on from the moment your shift begins until the moment you leave, and then the next person calls in sick from their shift. So it was, I don't know what the actual numbers were, I can't remember, but out of all of the people that started volunteering, only a small fraction of them were with us and became our long-term, very dependable volunteers, which were the saving grace for Thea and I. And ultimately, going to turn on my four-way flasher since I'm going up here in the road. Are these cameras still working? Okay, got the snowplow coming. My buddies. Kick her into rabbit mode here. So again, I get totally distracted from what I'm talking about. And so running a wildlife rehabilitation center, well, we made good money in the factory that we worked at. Both of us worked many, many hours, had 2 kids to raise. But the truth is that the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center not only took our time and energy and took away from spending good quality time with our kids that other people would probably have if they, just being real careful here, just cleaning right around the fire hydrant here. Okay, what was I saying here? So So it was very challenging those years. We loved it. I mean, I learned so much. We both learned so much, and there's a sense of I don't know. I really developed a sense of feeling better about myself as a human being by doing the work that we did do with the wildlife. I felt good about giving volunteers the opportunity to experience and work with the wildlife. Okay, I'm going to change the directions of the shoot here. So those things were profoundly rewarding. Just trying to keep an eye open if the snowplow is going to come back through here again. So it was very rewarding doing the things that we were doing, but you know, the factory work wasn't rewarding. The factory work provided us with the funds to do the things that we loved doing, you know, working with wildlife and feeling a sense of purpose in life and doing our conservation work. There were other things. We also we're on the environmental committee for our town, very much involved with conservation efforts at that time. Stop here for a second, let all that snow come out. And go back here now and throw the snow the other way. But ultimately, what we ended up deciding was, well, Thea said to me one day, you'd be a good doctor, a good veterinarian. And other people thought that we were veterinarians because doing many of the things that we were doing with the wildlife, you develop skills and talents. And I was always learning from the veterinarians that volunteered. We had them on the board of directors for the Wildlife Center. This was a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation. And so eventually we decided, well, maybe I could go to vet school. Maybe Thea could go back and become a veterinarian. Because she'd always dreamed of being a veterinarian as a little girl, but it was expensive to go to school, just like it is now. And just going to come up here by the front door. So when the drivers come and they drop their packages, I get the most when they leave them in front of the garage there, but anyways. And there I did move the chute thing. So ultimately decided to go to college. So, and I never told anyone when I was married to my first wife. So Thea and I were both married previously. Thea brought horses, dogs, and cats, and a kind, compassionate, forgiving, understanding personality to our relationship. And in education, she was educated when I wasn't. I had barely gotten through high school. Back then. And let's try to focus on what I'm doing here. Apologize for breaking up my discontinuous train of thought here. Got rabbit tracks all along the driveway here. I just realized I still have this in rabbit mode. A little jerky coming around here. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's get it down into regular speed here. And so, when I was married to my first wife, I thought possibly I could pull off. I did graduate from high school, but by the skin of my teeth. I thought, well, I could potentially get a college education or get a degree is what I was thinking, so I could get a better job. So I enrolled in SUNY Oswego. Within a couple of weeks, I became aware that there was no possible way on earth that I was going to be successful at going to school at Oswego. So I gave up on school and became what they referred to as a disappearing student. In other words, I left one day, crushed, and never went back. Well, until, as the story picks up later on in life, when decided to apply to SUNY Oswego, and they weren't just going to let me in. I had to go in and talk to, I can't remember, I think I talked to the dean and talked to, office people. I really don't remember the titles of the people that I had to speak with, but they told me, so GoPro battery died again on me. Concrete isn't completely smooth here where I'm going through. This is next to the West Garden plot. When it's heavy, thick snow like this, you really have to slow down at the end when you're getting close to where you want to stop, so they can chew up all the snow that's there, so you're not pushing the snow through the overhead door there. Anyways, once again, I don't remember exactly what I was talking about. Going back to Oswego, talking to the faculty there and the dean, and my wife came with me because I felt so embarrassed being a disappearing student. That's where I learned the expression disappearing student. Somehow I had remembered at the time that, I dropped out. Well, that isn't the truth. I just didn't come back, which is a crappy thing to do. It's unlike my personality, but that's what I did do. And so they said to me, that we'll give you a chance. We're going to enroll you under the forgiveness policy, but you can't take a full load. I couldn't take a full student load because they wanted me to be successful. And bear with me here as I'm trying to, this is really thick snow here, and turning in this is a bit of a challenge. So they let me in under the forgiveness policy, which meant I needed to take less than, it was like half to 3/4 of the number of credits for a full semester. And I had to maintain at least a B schedule. I guess that's a 3.0. And I did very well. But in the book, there's a whole chapter on how I almost didn't. I almost quit. I'll tell you the short part of the story there. Well, in the very beginning, there's very large lecture halls that can hold, I don't know, probably 110 students, I'm guessing. I don't really actually know the number. So it was Bio 101. It's a requirement if you're going to, you can have like I think it was Bio 101. It was one that was geared for science majors, people who, like I was a pre-medical, pre-veterinary student. So I couldn't take, and I'm not trying to be insulting, I'm going to call it baby bio. I had to take, this big introduction to biology. And every seat, now I got there early, of course, and I sat down in the second row, and I brought a cassette recorder with me so that I could record the lectures. I did this with every class. I sat up front, had a tape recorder, and I recorded all the lectures. And I was surrounded by these. So by this time, I'm almost 30 years old. I've had a family. I've worked, my entire life up to that point. Have kids. And I was surrounded by these very young people who had just been through high school and graduated, and most of them were planning on going into the sciences, not just a low-level biology course. This was the introduction, the base for going on and getting a Bachelor of Science degree. And so I'll switch to the other side here. And so being around them, and they seemed so casual about everything there the whole time. I'm hearing from the 3 different professors, I think it was 3, it might have been 4, I remember 3 of them, that all lectured each day, one after the other, or each day one would lecture about different subjects. And the textbook was this thick, weighed an awful lot of weight, and I had to bring biology dictionaries with me and all these so that I learned all of the terms. So I had a whole big bag, like a gym bag, with about 60 pounds of supplies that I needed to bring with me every single time. And this textbook looked, well, it was intimidating to me. Absolutely intimidating. And they let us know they're only going to cover so much in their lectures. And I think they're about like 55-minute lectures, jam-packed, and we were responsible for knowing everything that was in the lectures, everything that was in this massive textbook, which I was completely overwhelmed with. So I really focused on the lectures, the things that they were saying, and I did very little with the textbook, because at that time I didn't find any people that would read the textbooks and the tapes for me, and my reading rate was so slow, there's just no way. I just couldn't do that. But I would use that book and find the sections in the book that they were talking about, so I'd get, you know, diagrams, additional information, textbook information about each one of these, each one of the topics that they would lecture about. There's the leaf mold pile right in front of us there. So I was completely intimidated by all these young whippersnappers who knew so much more than me about everything else. They were prepared. They already had, you know, they would say, oh, I already had this part in biology, I already had this part in genetics, yeah, I understood this part of, we had the earth science part of this, of these lectures and all, but I had none of those things. And I had to learn all the terms as well. So I was on the edge of tears, completely embarrassed, and I had I had made friendly conversations with a couple of students who were right near me, but they didn't have time to spend any time studying with me or anything like that. And I had work to do to get back to the house and do more work. We were running the wildlife center, this whole thing, and construction work I needed to do. We were still doing building. The house wasn't finished yet. That needed to be done. So I was feeling absolutely overwhelmed. So one of the professors that taught this course, he ended up being the mayor of the town years later, but he was into mycology, fungi, and he had an office in the basement of one of the buildings in a different part of the campus, where he said, you know, if anybody has questions or having difficulty with the subject matter, and I was feeling completely overwhelmed, he said, you can come and see me. So I knew it'd be just about the end of his office hours that he'd be in his office, because I didn't want the embarrassment of other students seeing me on the edge of tears going in there and talking to the professor. So I went there. I waited till no one else was there, and I went in. It was very cordial, very, very nice, very professional. And I told him, I said, I think I may have made a mistake. You know, I got this thing called dyslexia. I am just learning to read now, and it's very, very, very difficult. You know, and they did tell me that I could take extra time on exams, you know, to take the exams, so because being a slow reader and all, I'd be able to do that. And I told him that because he said to me, he said, well, do they know that you're dyslexic? And I said, yes, I'm under the forgiveness policy to come back to school and all. So I explained all that. They said, oh, good. It seems like you're doing pretty good. And I'm thinking to myself, did he not hear what I just said? You got a guy who can't do this here. And he said to me, he said, look, there's a young lady, and he told me her name, I can't remember it, who has dyslexia, and she was in a class, you know, a couple of years before my class. So I was the class of 93, meaning that you graduate in 93. And he said to me, he said, you know, she ended up doing very well. And she's an entrepreneur now, and is doing very well. And I've subsequently found out she did extremely well in life. after that. But at the time, you know, you know, and I didn't tell this story, it's in the book, but about how I discovered what dyslexia was is because of overhearing a woman talking about that she also had dyslexia, and she ultimately learned to read and all, and that was around the time where I committed to learn how to read. So bear with me here for a second. And I'm getting my stories mixed up here. So he said to me, he said, you know, you need to be patient with yourself, and it's going to take you longer than these young kids who have just come out of high school. But he said, you seem like you've got because I told him about the wildlife center and the horses and all that, and he says, you know, you've got enough world experience, you've been out, you've worked for years, you've been successful. He said, I think you can do this. And I'm thinking, boy, I haven't explained my situation very well, but he told me, he said, I need to give it an honest try and not give up right then. And so I did. I really tried my darndest, and things did work out. And you know, that was an amazing time in my life, because I developed a new sense of self-worth going to school. So I ended up maintaining a 4.0 throughout 4 years that I was there, and I ended up having to take more classes, more courses, because I immediately took a light load as a requirement for my first semester. So, and there were courses that I really wanted to take, so I took extra credits and all. I took on extra courses. So I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in zoology. That made the most sense to me, and my minor in biochemistry. And as the semesters went by, as I was there at Oswego, I was involved in LEO, which is a student-run, student-supported organization with a faculty member to guide us and to be there for us. Inez Alfor is an absolutely amazing person. But LEO stood for the Learning Enhancement Organization. And again, since I was embarrassed to talk about my whole life not being able to read and not fitting in, I thought I was the only one, until I heard the lady on the radio or on the TV, I don't remember which one it was, when I was working in my workshop, tell her story about dyslexia. Then the professor telling me the story about the young lady who also went to SUNY Oswego and ended up being very successful in life with dyslexia. And this is before, you know, I knew anything about TV personalities, you know, actors and actresses who were dyslexic, or other famous people being dyslexic. I had no idea about these people. I learned this much later, while I was, you know, struggling at the time in my undergraduate work. So I had no know, mentors or people, a place where I could hang my ambitions on, other than me thinking I'll be the first one to do this. Then when I got involved with the Learning Enhancement Organization, LEO, I met many students that were all different years. They're freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, who had a whole variety of different disabilities, physical disabilities, emotional disabilities, mental illness, and all different learning disabilities other than like dyslexia, because I had no idea there were other learning disabilities. And that was an eye-opener. And one of the things that was really interesting, I didn't put any of this in the book, but one of the things that I don't know how it came about, but we ended up spending time with young kids who were in grade school who had learning disabilities. Now back then, like even attention deficit disorder, I'm not sure what the terms are nowadays for that, but kids who were having trouble in school, some of us would volunteer to meet with them, and I guess to mainly, not necessarily instruct them on how to get through things, but to more or less appear as a representative that we've made it and we're in college, to inspire the kids, I guess, is the way to look at it. So that was fulfilling for me as well, is knowing that here are these young kids who are struggling, and my struggles back when I was back in the 60s, so I was born in 57, and so in the 60s, when I was in Catholic school, man, that was one rough place to be as a dyslexic kid. And my other issues with lacking social skills, I was looked at as a troublemaker. You know, I was punished regularly and berated regularly. So hopefully Catholic schools are different now. But anyways, I saw this opportunity working with the little Leos, in a sense, the kids who had learning disabilities, that just wanted to hang out with and watch some college-age students who also had learning disabilities as a form of inspiration. Well, that made me feel good, made me feel better about myself. Seems like there's always snow blowing to do around here. But I gotta say, having this makes the job much more comfortable and certainly much faster than in the past, even with the Mahindra that I used for years, snow blowing it. Gotta be careful because rocks get kicked up down here pretty quickly and easily. So this could end up being another long video. It will be another long video. But you're getting a little piece of my heart here. My stories. So Anyways, like I mentioned in the last video, this is me. I'm a little different, I guess, in many ways, not just the dyslexia. My social skills, my love of being by myself, working. My love of being in nature. I do love, one thing I do miss is teaching. I do miss that a lot, but it was a good phase of my life. I'll just say that. My life is pretty full. I'm pretty happy. I'm very happy. Very content. The word content. I'm always striving for something new. I always want to be learning. Really important. Learn, learn, learn. I just love to learn. And now I'm just babbling on here, so I think it's a good time to end this video. So that's one of the stories, which is in the book that isn't available yet. I just finished my draft, and I'm sure I have a lot to learn about getting this book ready for publishing. This again is another obstacle for me to overcome. I don't think it'll be easy, but hopefully it'll be rewarding and people will find value in it. So that's it for today's video, folks. I really appreciate you hanging with me and listening. Get to learn a little bit more about me, unless you've been around for years and heard my stories before. So I really do appreciate I appreciate you, all you people out there who reach out and comment and watch the videos and are interested in the things that we're doing. I just thought it'd be time to share another one of my stories and all with you. I hope you have a beautiful holiday season here. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Be careful, be safe. These holiday times, people are a little crazy, sometimes drinking a bit too much out there. So take care of yourselves, stay safe, and have a beautiful and wonderful holiday season. Bye-bye now.